You're listening to Spotlight, the podcast that fosters connections with veterans and military spouses. Here's your host, Bob Lalvin.
Welcome, everybody. This is your host, Bob Lalvin. This is the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. Pleased to have as my guest today, Brent Gleeson, founder and CEO of Taking Point Leadership, and the author of a new book that I ran through over the last few days called Embrace the Suck. Got some great quotes I'm going to pull out of this book for us today. Brent, welcome to the program. Thanks for stepping into the spotlight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Before we get into the book, which is fantastic, and I think everybody kind of knows what embracing the suck means. If they don't, they haven't been around us long enough. But talk a little bit about growing up and how you got got on the path to becoming a Navy SEAL, because you didn't come about it directly.
Yeah, it's a kind of an interesting backstory. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, did my undergraduate education at Southern Methodist University, earning degrees in finance and economics. I spent a little time at Oxford University in England as well. And at that time and throughout my life, never had a serious vision or a path towards military service. Obviously fascinated by it. My dad had served as a Marine during Vietnam. But I was more on the path towards business. And so I graduated and took a job as a financial analyst with a large real estate development investment firm called Trammell Crow Company based out of Dallas. Mm-hmm. Now, during that time, I had a close friend of mine who was a year behind me in school. So he was now a senior at SMU. Now, he was, in fact, one of these young men who had a lifelong, more or less, passion, vision, dream of one day graduating college and joining the Navy, and at least attempting to be accepted into the notorious SEAL training pipeline. And during that time, he and I actually started training together. For me, just a way to stay fit and help a friend prepare for his own arduous journey ahead. And by nature, spending a lot of time together, nights and weekends, having a lot of dialogue about the implications of this journey. And it piqued my interest, and I started reading books about the history of the Naval Special Warfare community, our forefathers from the underwater demolition teams in World War II, to where we really cut our teeth as an elite assault force in Vietnam, and the missions and conflicts beyond. And I became fascinated really with the mindset and the mental fortitude and how we build high performance teams and how we align the culture of our community and organization with creating desired outcomes as part of the tip of the spear and the special operations forces. And that growing fascination, coupled with the somewhat tedious and boring nature of my entry-level financial analyst position, led to the culmination of a decision to not have that on my list of regrets and to take that time to give to a cause greater than myself and engage in what I now call purposeful suffering. And much to my parents' dismay at the time, I let them know I was quitting my job and joining my buddy. And soon thereafter, we moved up to Crested Butte, Colorado, to train for an additional about 6 months for about 10 to 12 hours a day at high altitude to refine our training and get into the best physical condition that we could prior to joining the Navy. And then in early 2000, joined the Navy and made a quick trip through basic training and off here to San Diego to begin the speeding freight train of Navy SEAL life.
You've written 2 books. This is not your first book. Tell us briefly about the first book and a little bit about Taking Point Leadership,
Sure.
Your company.
Sure. I obviously, as you know, I was not a career SEAL, and that had not been my plan. Went in right before 9/11, so obviously did a few combat deployments, transitioned out, went to graduate school, and then dove into another risky world of entrepreneurship, which has about the same failure rate, I believe, as SEAL training.
Probably does.
But I picked up a interest in calculated risk and embracing stress and anxiety. So I teamed up with one of my friends from grad school and started my first business, raised a couple $1 million for that business, and then built a second company several years later. And what I found was not necessarily a passion and deep interest in those specific industries. They were more on the technology side, but a passion for building organizations and defining a culture that creates desired business results and employee engagement strategies, and really injecting leadership at every level of an organization to define, better outcomes, better results, better adaptability, essentially drawing on, many of the key leadership and culture principles that forge elite special operations forces, and applying those to organizations so they can grow more quickly, be more sustainable, and most importantly, navigate change more successfully than other similar organizations. So the first book, Taking Point, subtitled A Navy SEAL's 10 Fail-Safe Principles for Leading Through Change, is a modern take on change management. I don't really prefer that term. I like change leadership, so to speak. But essentially, I read many books through grad school and my entrepreneurial journey, from Jim Collins's books to Leading Change and Marshall Goldsmith, and really found a fascination for how to create organizational excellence in a complex world. And a lot of what I draw on in Taking Point is key learnings from our organizational transformation journey in the world of special operations in this post 9/11 world. I mean, when 9/11 hit, the military in its entirety and the special operations community, of course, we were, your traditional large, slow-moving, command and control, hierarchical, vertically and horizontally siloed 20th century organization. And we realized very quickly that to move at the speed these wars required, we had to really reinvent ourselves, new systems, new processes, new best practices, new standard operating procedures, new operating models, and essentially transforming the behavior and mindset of everybody in the organization to enhance our culture to become more agile, more nimble and more adaptable, because we were fighting a very dangerous and decentralized enemy. So we too had to become much more decentralized, much more agile, and be able to push decision-making further to the battlefield, which was a huge culture shift. And we're still in it. It's the military, so it takes a long, long time. And essentially, Taking Point is really about how to apply that to the modern complex business organization. And now we have 2020, of course. So many of those principles already applied in the fast-paced world of modern business. And now with new layers of complexity, what my organization does is we're essentially a leadership and organizational development consulting firm. We focus heavily on developing not just senior leaders, but middle management, frontline high potential leaders, culture transformation initiatives, employee engagement strategies, and aligning all these things to create better business outcomes, more sustainability, and essentially more profitability.
How did you discover you were an author? I'm sort of curious about how that happened. Did you just say, I need to write this down? Did it come together piecemeal and you said, gosh, I got 10 things here. Let's make a book out of it. How did that work?
Well, it starts in SEAL training. All SEALs are required to write books once they get out. I don't know if you knew that, but
well, I think 2021, I'm probably going to have 15 SEALs who've written books in there at some point. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of the people you actually mentioned, some people in the book that have written books. So anyway.
Yeah. And then we point fingers at each other for, I've written books, but you can't write books because this and that. And we have an interesting competitive nature amongst our SEAL community. But and people had asked me over the years, are you going to write a book? And from your learnings as a SEAL or as an entrepreneur or both, and how do you tie those things together? And eventually the timing just became right. I sold the second company in 2016 and decided that my first platform for building this company was to write a book, which became Taking Point, which essentially is the foundation for many of our learning modules and our curriculum as it applies to generating organizational excellence with our client partners. And so I dove into the project. I partnered up with Simon & Schuster for the first book, and did tons of research on change management, change leadership, organizational transformation, and found things that worked and found things from my experience that I felt didn't work and could be enhanced, and then also did layering in the learnings from my military experience as well as the military's transformation. Took a lot from General Stanley McChrystal's Team of Teams and One Mission, the books that they wrote. And I was honored to have him blurb the front cover of Taking Point. So that was pretty awesome. So there was a strategy behind writing the book. It wasn't just to write another SEAL, war memoir by any means, which it's not, as you've seen if you've read it. I wanted to write more of a business book that could be, there's a strategy behind it too, as far as thought leadership, content marketing strategy, and generating a platform from which we could build an organization and build curriculum and build a team around, which is what we've done.
Yeah, you've drawn so many real life experiences, woven it into the fabric of the book here. One of your favorite lines that you've got in there: tattoo this on the inside of your eyelids. The sort of these things. Just some fascinating. Some lists in here. Going through root cause analysis. I even the people that are listening can't. I've printed out some of your diagrams. I sort of like this, this diagram where the shitty thing that happened, the high level cause, getting down to the root cause of things, lessons learned, and action planning. And I just I'm going to throw a couple of your quotes at you, and then not in any particular order, but wanted to get your reaction to it. And one of the things that I think you probably a lot of introspection. You say, if you see no reason for giving thanks, then the fault lies only within yourself. Can you talk a little bit about personal accountability, and we'll start with that.
Sure. Obviously, for the listener, we're talking about my new book, Embrace the Suck. And the line you just read was from the poem Death Song by Tecumseh. He was a Shawnee chief who lived before, during, and after the War of 1812, and a known warrior poet. And that poem is widely shared within the Naval Special Warfare community. It really, kind of in a way captures, how we approach life and work. And it really has a lot of meaning to me and many others, because it essentially defines, how, what it means to live with the end in mind, and what it means to live a life of meaning and of giving to causes greater than yourself. And that line, if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies within yourself, because it says, when you rise in the morning, give thanks for the light, for your life, for your strength. And if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies within yourself. And I think it's powerful, probably now more than ever, because in times of extreme adversity, which many of us have been in over the past 10 months, adversity has a lot of positive outcomes. There's opportunity amidst the chaos. Adversity forces reinvention, reassessment, creativity, innovation, and introspection in the way that we look at. And I know that many of us throughout this year have really reassessed how we look at our relationships, our family, our work, our finances, how we run our businesses, how we adapt to change, how we change the narrative in our mind about what true adversity really is. And, but also finding ways to continue to give thanks for the blessings that we do have. That has a lot to do with that introspection. And when you're faced with adversity and people with a growth mindset tend to more quickly move out of that causal thinking of, gosh, why me, why now, more into, okay, well, let me take stock of my current situation. Let me hold myself personally accountable to moving out of this situation, out of this life ambush, get out of the bunker, get off the X and back onto the battlefield, and give thanks for what I do have. Yes, maybe a lot of us have been stripped of certain things, and a lot of our, 2020 business projections were shot to hell by high caliber machine guns in March. Yeah. And that's okay. But a lot of organizations, and ours included, have taken the opportunity to adapt, to innovate, to recapitalize, to rethink our workspace needs, our use of technology, and many organizations are going to come more strongly out of this. I think we need to make sure that we all put away the phrases and the thinking of like, gosh, thank God 2020 is over, and thank God it's almost the new year. So what? We're not going to flip a switch, on January 1st and everything's going to go away, and there's no ripple effects of all these things that we've been dealing with this year. Those will last for months and years to come in many ways. But a lot of good will come out of this too. There is opportunity, on this sort of newly defined battlefield.
You're going to be the very first episode in 2021, episode 1, season 2. But I do think some good things are going to come out of 2020. Like you said, I I would never have been a podcaster if it hadn't been for COVID, number one. Number two, it's really led me to examine the way we run our business. It took one key component of our business and made it a physical impossibility. We were having events. I would be asking Brent Gleeson to come speak to
And I would
75
be
people
coming to speak.
at at a cocktail reception. We can't do that. Are you seeing a lot of rebirth, new growth in your clients as a direct result of them having to abandon some things and think about a new way of attacking their business?
Yeah, absolutely. It obviously for everyone, it was a gut punch. It was uncomfortable at first. A global pandemic was not on anybody's contingency plan as far as their 2020 and beyond strategic imperatives go. But nonetheless, it showed up. And what we've seen with our clients, and we've been very blessed over the past 10 months. We've adapted and we've been working with new clients like Google and the NFL and Salesforce and GSK and other global healthcare companies, in large part in a new direction for now, as far as leading and managing remote teams and creating a virtual culture and work from home best practices and digital transformation and some things that
are a lot of these clients trying to tap into the special operator ethos and mentality. Is that what they're trying to gain from all of this?
I would say it's definitely part of why our clients hire us over, possibly like another similar, boutique consulting firm that can do similar things that we do. We do have a different approach. We do have different proprietary ways that we, teach, for example, planning, execution, debriefing, how we develop leaders and the different types of modules that we use. But for better or worse, they like the military background and specifically the special operations background. It garners a certain level of respect, and the people we put through our training programs and the organizations, they pay attention. And we've created a certain level of thought leadership through our Forbes leadership column that we've had for 7 years, and through books and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're here to generate results and tangible financial benefits to enhancing the people practices, the leadership ability, and the design of the culture of an organization. And when organizations can see that hit their bottom line, it's maybe worth rethinking. But yeah, we've seen a lot of organizations that we've been working with, and not just because they've been working with us, but very quickly adapt, go through forced digital transformation that would take most organizations 1 to 2 years, and still probably fall short of meeting their intended objectives. And they did it in 2 weeks because of working remote and how they interact internally, how they interact with their customers and clients. So, and a lot of these things will be, wrapped in permanency. Organizations are going to rethink their workspace needs. I feel bad for some of the folks in the commercial real estate realm for now, but a lot of innovation and a lot of creativity has come out of this, and in a way created a lot more scalability in certain areas of these businesses that didn't exist before.
So we're talking with Brent Gleeson, the founder and CEO of Taking Point Leadership and the author of the new book, Embrace the Suck. Now I want to run down some of the things in your book that I just thought were kind of interesting. You talk about how research shows that 2 qualities are consistently good predictors of success in achieving your goals in life: intelligence and self-control. Can we talk a little bit about that? And you spend a lot of time in the book talking about removing distractions and doing things that allow us to be more disciplined. Is that something that you got taught in the SEAL teams? Curious to connect the dots on all this.
You have to learn it pretty quickly just to prepare yourself for the program. But I do make that point in the book that I draw from someone else. But intelligence, self-control based on the research. I push back a little bit on the intelligence piece because we may not be able to innately enhance our own baseline level of intelligence, obviously, of being a lifelong learner and those types of things you can always enhance. But really it comes more so down to discipline. As you probably recall, I shared one of my favorite quotes by Calvin Coolidge as far around persistence. Nothing in the world takes the place of persistence. Talent won't, education won't, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. And because persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And so discipline and accountability are a couple things I had to learn really, really quickly that I knew were necessary for relative success in high school and college and playing sports and getting decent grades and getting a good job, but not to the level required to achieve truly, truly lofty or seemingly insurmountable goals. So when I did finally make that ultimate decision, for example, to leave my job and go all in on this pursuit of becoming a SEAL, which, as we know, has a extremely high attrition rate. So there's a lot of risk wrapped around that, because if being a SEAL is the only thing you want to do in the United States Navy, there's a really, really high chance that you're going to be in the regular Navy. I always joke that the SEAL program is a great recruiting tool, because 85 to 90% of those young men will end up in the fleet, where we need great sailors as well. And everybody serves, in different ways. And so I really had to begin understanding how to go through my own individual personal transformation journey, which I touch on in the book, as far as reinventing myself to even get in the mindset and headspace to train properly and to even consider that journey and to envision the long-term outcome. That's one of the things that's a core tenet of success, I think, in anything we do is being able to envision what that winning outcome looks like. What is it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Who am I going to be at that time when I achieve that goal? And then what am I going to do next to push the goalposts and continue growth and continue to achieve other goals? So when I left I had to change my social life, my work life, dietary habits, workout regimen, even going as far as removing people from my life that I knew would stand in the way of that goal. And the process worked, but it required extreme discipline. No going out to the bars on Friday and Saturday, because I'd get up early and run a marathon on Sunday or Saturday morning. No, and after work it wasn't, hey, let's go to happy hours. Like, no, I'm going to train, which was it was tough, because I was a young 22 or 23-year-old out of college and living in downtown Dallas and had a good job, and all those things were very tempting. And I talk about Taming Temptation Tiger, which is the title of chapter 4. And kicks off with a little narrative about the persona of Temptation Tiger. And really, it's about one of the interesting parts of the book that you saw from James Clear, American author and photographer. He talks about limiting our choices and putting better constraints on ourselves so that we don't have to face temptation so often. So basically boiling it down to something so simple that, reassess your values, make sure that your choices align with those values, and put certain lane markers in your life, and identifying the things that you're willing to do to push forward to achieve a goal, and more importantly, the things you're absolutely not willing to do to sacrifice your values and sacrifice the pursuit of that specific goal. And of course, making sure you're doing it not at the expense of other things that are important or other people, of course, but putting those proper constraints in place, and then reassessing your values to make sure we're making the right decisions based on those values, just like a high-performing business organization does. In a best-case scenario, we have core values and guiding principles and the supporting behaviors that we expect of ourselves and others to achieve a desired outcome. Well, if we do that for high-performing teams in business or special operations or winning sports teams, well, why don't we do it for ourselves?
Now you've opened up Pandora's box for me, because, and you've given me a dilemma, because I'm having a hard time setting my priorities here on which thing to ask next. Right? We can only have one. I want to tell you a little quick story. There's a young man named Henry Meredith who about 4 or 5 years ago gave a valedictory address at VMI, and the theme of his talk was that VMI gave us failure, that he had grown up in a society where everybody got the trophy, and that is woven into the fabric of your book here. They say nothing breeds success like failure. Let's talk about that.
Sure. And I do have a subtitle in one of those chapters that says everybody gets a trophy, right?
Right.
Just like my kids always.
Well, you could almost predict who was going to fail in buds, because the people that had never really encountered adversity in their life are coming against the first adversarial model they've ever really been through when they get to buds. But there's so much value in that.
It's interesting because and we've invested millions of dollars in research and over years of data collection and interviews and trying to identify the mental, emotional, cognitive, and physical attributes of students who are more likely to successfully navigate the SEAL training pipeline. Because, ideally we could use a few more SEALs on the battlefield, but because the training is so challenging, we still graduate about the same percentage each class. And the data reflects interesting things, and probably not a narrative that your listener might initially anticipate, although a lot of them being military and veterans, they'll understand this more so than others. And, it's not this picture of, star athleticism and extreme academic excellence. And while, intellect and physical prowess are critically important, I mean, you have to show up super fit and you have to be smart enough to make the grade too, because there are high academic standards as well. But the interesting thing shows it comes more down to grit and resilience, and most importantly, a deep passion and emotional connection to the idea of service, not just in the military, but service as a SEAL, service as a special operator. Just like in any walk of life, when we think about any lofty goal we achieved, whether it be in sports or in business or getting into a great college or grad school, that emotional connection to the mission is what carries you through, those tough times, the setbacks, the micro failures, as I call them. In life, we're either winning or we're learning. You got to think of it that way. Failure, the definition of failure in my book is when we cease to learn from those setbacks and roadblocks, and then when we cease to get up and continue to move forward. Failure is, it's the mother of success. I mean, we love to think about the people who've, made their first $1 billion, or who are super successful in the world of, business or acting or music or art or whatever it is. And we never really sit back and reflect on, because it's not usually widely publicized as far as the, their road to success, however you define it, is riddled with the pockmarks of those micro failures and the setbacks, and the people who told them they couldn't do this or they couldn't do that, or the jobs that they lost, on that, path towards what they thought they were trying to achieve. And it, without failure, there's no really, how do we define, success? Without those setbacks, how do we develop ourselves and grow, mentally, and grow our emotional maturity? Without being able to learn from those things. I talk in the beginning of the book about the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset being when it comes to skills or challenges or setbacks, it is what it is. I am who I am. My talents are what they are. My shortcomings are what they are. And there really is no point in pursuing a whole lot of effort in developing, because it's not going to work anyway. Whereas a growth mindset obviously is one of the core tenets of resilience. It's challenges are seen as opportunities for growth and development, if not embraced and warranted for gaining more enlightenment and intelligence on this meandering path towards whatever success it is we're trying to achieve. The people who see failure, I just saw, it's an interesting question, because I just saw a social media post on Instagram from one of my good friends from my BUDS class, my SEAL training class, who didn't make it. He quit, and somebody, and he's still in the Navy, and he's 22 years, had a wonderful career. And he reposted a screenshot of a post where someone said, it was him and David Goggins, who wrote the foreword for my book, who your listeners will know who he is, retired SEAL, world-renowned elite ultra athlete. And he and David just finished this ridiculously long run. It was a 200-mile race or whatever it was.
Yeah.
and they did it together. And he posted a video about it, and haters are going to hate. So when you put yourself out there in social media, you never know what you're going to get. And someone said, "Didn't you quit, BUDS? This video makes you look like you're a David Goggins wannabe." And his response, he could have deleted it. He could have gotten angry, but he went the other way. He was like, you know what? I did. And that was a different man back then, a man who succumbed to the pressure, to the pain, to the fear of failure, and basically saying, this is the man I am now. As far as being a David Goggins wannabe, you're damn right. I'm always a wannabe for being a better person tomorrow than I am today. It was a phenomenal response. And it really just showed, it just captured just sort of that growth mindset that I was talking about, where you accept those failures, you embrace them, you don't shy away from them. You're like, yeah, I quit. Or yeah, I failed at this. And here's what I learned. And here's why I'm a better person today.
I told you before the program, I'm kind of an accidental investment banker, and there was a previous recession in 2008. That's really when it dawned on me that veterans made such great entrepreneurs, and candidly, they brought a heightened sense of ethics to the equation as well. Um, what do you think it is about being a veteran, the sort of the crucible of the military? I mean, do you think that that makes us better entrepreneurs and business people?
It's 100%. I mean, I think that I would say to anybody, if they have the opportunity to serve, even if it's for a short period of time, you would never regret it. Again, like I didn't initially have that vision to serve, and that vision changed, and I did. And regardless of the experiences, both great and horrible, I have no regrets, and I would never change that because it made me who I am. I love your your reference to 2008 because my first company that I raised a couple $1 million for, where I had investors, I had a board of directors, was a home finding search engine. Basically an early version of Trulia or Zillow that I started right before the housing market imploded. When those of us out there are like, it's not a bubble. We're going to ride this wave to glory town. Sell in a few years for this ridiculous multiple, like all entrepreneurs think they're going to do. That rarely happens, of course. Usually, it's a much longer grind towards a slightly lower valuation when you exit.
I tell people now we're getting ready to do some things, and I tell them, I can only guarantee you one thing, that my financials are wrong, and it isn't going to work out the way we planned. Let's talk.
To answer your question, just to kind of sum that up, is yes, I really had to lean back on the mindset and the behavior and the way of thinking that forged special operations teams and how we adapt on the battlefield and in situations that are obviously life and death. And that definitely helps me. It's helped others, and I know it helps a lot of veterans in their ability to to be able to lead, to manage, to compartmentalize in a healthy way, and to reconnect a team towards the mood, a vision for where the organization needs to head during those arduous times like 2008 or 2020. That's what we see in the beginning stages of SEAL training. When a team can continually navigate adversity, those teams have a specific makeup, these attributes that the other teams don't have, the other boat crews and buds don't have. And these teams win and those teams lose. And as far as, resilience and a shared sense of purpose and an emotional connection to the mission and the desired outcome, high levels of engagement and participation, a cultural environment where everyone's a leader, regardless of rank, title, or tenure. Everyone leads when necessary. Everyone looks out for the person to the left and right more so than themselves, creating an overlapping web of performance. Those are attributes of high performance teams, and organizations that have that, especially if they have some military veteran mindsets integrated, are usually set up for success despite obstacles.
Let me shift gears on you a little bit as we're kind of winding down. I got so many things I kind of want to ask you about, but so embracing the suck, doing the things that are hard. I call it eating the frog. I actually have that on my calendar in the morning.
Yeah.
Get that thing out of the way.
I love that phrase. Love that phrase.
Isn't the most exciting thing that I get to do today. But you say that there's really no such thing as a work-life balance. It's work-life integration. And you also talk about focusing on choosing the right things, embracing the right things that suck. I mean, how do we get balance now? It's not just about grinding through everything. It's about setting priorities.
Right. And it's really about going to sort of that military mindset of prioritization and execution. If we have 10 priorities, we really have no priorities. And looking at those things, when I talk about the chapter titled "Do Something That Sucks Every Day," it's meant to be tongue in cheek and a little eye catching, but there's a specific meaning behind it, of course, where prioritization. One of the things that drives us off course are all the shiny objects that pass us, especially in business and entrepreneurship, and the opportunities. I'm using big air quotes around opportunities that seem like they'll generate revenue or put us in the spotlight or whatever those things are. Oftentimes those are the wrong things to choose. What I'm talking about as far as doing the things that suck on a regular basis are the things associated with achieving specific goals and desired outcomes that we're not that good at, that do make us uncomfortable. As a leader, and I'm a student and teacher of leadership, so I always have to be in a constant state of learning, and we learn just as much from our clients as they learn from us, is if we're thinking about how to develop ourselves and develop a team, there's always going to be things with the individual or the team that the team's not that good at, or the individual's not that good at, the things that we don't really like to do, but that are critical for mission success. One of the things that I've struggled with in the past, and this is based on 360 reviews and peer-to-peer feedback and upward management, so to speak, is having the difficult conversations, or picking up the phone and calling the angry client so that I don't really want to do. It's not on the top of my list today because I have other cool things that I want to do, or having that tough conversation with an employee, peer, board member that I know is going to be very uncomfortable for me and for that person. I used to shy away from those things. I used to put them off or move them from today on my to-do list to next Thursday, and basically just make the situations worse because I keep putting it off, and it's just harder to deal with it when I do face it. That would go on my list of things that suck that I need to practice on a regular basis. Tackle it now. That would be the frog that I would eat, every morning. Or other types of things that I don't like doing as far as running a business that aren't sexy. It's not sales and obvious revenue generation or interacting with clients or being on stage at a big event. It's applying for government loans during a global pandemic, or dealing with my CFO on tax complications and things that I just hate.
There's a lot of stuff we need to say no to. You've got a good piece on multitasking. Where you talk about you go and try to do multitasking, you just be doing a whole lot of things in a half-assed way. So setting priorities and so forth. You've got some really good 8-step processes of identifying your weaknesses and removing temptations and that sort of thing, which I think are a great tool for improving your productivity. But and there's so much in this book. Everybody's got to pick it up and read it. I mean, and it came out last Tuesday, and this is Tuesday. So I got it. I've completed it within a week. I absolutely consumed it. The last thing I want to get to, which I haven't filled it out yet, but you've given me this chart, and it basically at the top, it's 2 columns. It says, when it comes to, and it lists things like family and personal relationships and your career and your purpose and so forth. I never want to regret. Can we talk a little bit about regret as we wrap up this conversation? I think that's this is a great piece. I got to fill it out.
Yeah, no, I wanted to wrap the book up with the last chapter is titled, "We're all going to die, so get off your ass and execute." Right. And a lot of the chapters really comes back to, I refer to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Number 2 being, thinking with the end in mind, living with the end in mind, behaving with the end in mind. And what I'm referring to there is we have very much under our power and control to manage the list of regrets we have when this short life comes to an end. The things that we don't want to be like, gosh, I wish I had done that, or I wish I had had that conversation with that person, or I wish I had told this person that I love them, or I wish I had pursued this other career, this other passion that people told me I shouldn't, or taken a little more risk, or served in the military, or built a business that I talked about building for 10 years and never did. That's pretty well under our control. We're always going to have things we regret.
What's holding us back? I mean, why don't we do this? Another book. Here we go. It's the third one.
We don't do this because oftentimes we're just so distracted by the speeding freight train of life that we don't take the time to take a tactical pause and be mindful of the things that are really meaningful to us and the things that we really ought to be pursuing, as opposed to all the other distractions that we're inundated with day in and day out.
So how are we promoting the book here? Things just been released a week ago. You can't go out and go on the book tour necessarily. What's the plan here as in the next couple of months for distribution of the book?
I'll tell you the no book tour thing is actually kind of cool. I'd rather do it this way with you on a podcast than traveling around. Now, I do miss going to New York for the big stuff and the TV shows. I am going to be actually on the Today Show live on Monday, January 4th. We'll be doing it like this over a Zoom, I presume. But look out for me live on the Today Show, January 4th. Yeah, it's been out for a week. I will say it's been holding #1 positions in self-help, self-esteem, military leadership. It's been doing phenomenally well. You can pick up the book on any online retailer, the Amazons of the world. Social media wise, I'm on Instagram at Brent_Gleeson, professionally on LinkedIn, of course, and Twitter. But yeah, go out and check it out. It's been getting really good feedback. In all sincerity, going into the project, obviously I didn't know 2020 would suck so bad, but here we are. And now I really hope the book continues to be a tool of inspiration and use the models in the book. There's some actionable frameworks in there as opposed to just it being a narrative. So
absolutely.
Thank you for having me on the
show.
show.
I'm going to go on Amazon, I think, and write a review now. And, I'll give you the big thumbs up. I don't know, give you the 5 stars on
Preferably
it.
Preferably 5 stars.
Yeah, give everybody give the shout out and make sure everybody to get it. I'm a Kindle guy, and matter of fact, I'm getting ready to. I was decluttering my office today and taking a bunch of dusty books. I'm like, why am I keeping these? I've got everything right here,
Yeah.
So anyway, well, listen, we've been speaking with Brent Gleeson, the founder and CEO of Taking Point Leadership and the author of the new book, Embrace the Suck. He has, we'll put links to all of these things, a way to follow you on social media, as well as links to into your new book on the landing page and in the show notes for this episode. You've been listening to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. We air on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we like to get in touch with veterans and military spouses who are making a difference in our community. Brent Gleeson, thank you so much for stepping into the spotlight. Really appreciate you having you on the show.
Well, thank you so much, and hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, we will. So bravo Zulu to you, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by Veteran Crowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at veterancrowdnetwork.com. We'll see you next time.